Okay, welcome everybody to the Mission Dharma Tuesday night sit. We have the honor of a guest leader tonight of Tuere Sala, and I hope that I got the name pronunciation at least in the right ballpark. So, as always, there's an encouragement to turn on your video at the beginning, just so that we can all see the community that we are. And with that, I will turn it over to Tuere.
Thank you, Keith. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you. Been here before, but I'm kind of glad that we are together again. So it's my understanding that we have a sit for about 40 minutes, and then we'll take about a 5-minute break or so, and then we'll have a little talk and maybe some responding, or we end about 8:30. Does that sound like that's where we're good? Good, 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 good. All right. So, do you mind if I give a little bit of instructions just to get us all settled together? Good. All right. So, I didn't actually introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, maybe I should say a little bit about myself since we're going to get all quiet and intimate together. Um, My name is Tuere Sala, and I'm the guiding teacher, one of the guiding teachers at Seattle Insight, and I'm one of the co-chairs at Spirit Rock for their Guiding Teachers Council. And I've been teaching for quite a while, since 2010. I've been practicing over 30 years, mostly at Seattle Insight, and then I went through the teacher training program before the pandemic through IMS, Insight Meditation Society. So I love the Dharma. I love teaching to communities. I love lay practice as a path for awakening. And I don't know. I love doing community teaching. I do a lot of retreats, but I love talking to communities who have sanghas out in the country. And so maybe we'll talk about something that's relevant and can help support you stay together through these difficult times. All right. So let's just sort of find ourselves in a comfortable position. And you don't have to do anything particularly special when you're meditating. It's really learning that whatever's arising in the present moment really is your practice. It really isn't, I got to go to my practice. It's allowing the practice to unfold in the moment. So you can do that by just noticing the sounds that happen to be in the space here. And there may be silence, and see if you could hear that silence as a sound. It's not just silence so there's no sound. It is silence as a sound. And that's what you hear, is the sound of silence. And you could just notice if there are little motors or clocks or outdoor sounds, people talking in another room. You could hear all of this as just arising right now, in this present moment. You don't have to do anything special because your ears pick up that sound. All you have to do is pay attention to your ears and what they hear. And they hear constantly. So they hear continuously, whether you're awake or asleep, they're just always hearing. Let's take a moment to really just listen, hearing, hearing. And you could notice also sensations in the body. It's always sensing something, changing, noticing pressure, noticing tingling, noticing achiness or stinging, whatever. It notices pleasant, unpleasant sensations constantly throughout the body. There's always some sensation that's happening in the body, and you're just paying attention. And then you can notice how much it is moving and changing, how much sounds and sensations come and go, rise and fall. No two moments are the same. And the thing about meditation is sometimes this is interesting to us, and sometimes the mind will get bored with it and wander off into thought. And you can bring yourself back just by paying attention, just by noticing that the thoughts have come into the foreground, but the sensation and the hearing is still in the background. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's not like the body has stopped breathing simply because you're thinking, or sounds stop happening just because you don't pay attention. It's just in the background and you're thinking. It's in the foreground. And gradually you can get a sense of that. And you could move the sensations, breathing, the sounds to the foreground again and put the thinking in the background. And in a way, this meditation process is this gentle rocking between bringing your sensory experience, your sense door experience of um, sounds, sensations. If you have your eyes open or even with your eyes closed, there may be seeing. You might smell something, taste something in the mouth. All of these sensory experiences are arising in the present moment. And you could just bring them forward into the foreground of your attention and let the thinking recede to the background. And sometimes the thinking will be in the foreground. It's a sense door also. You could just notice that the mind is thinking. And just like with sound, sensations, it's still coming and going, changing. So our meditation practice is really this vacillating between this thinking mind and this sensory present moment experience of the rising and passing of phenomena, objects at the sense doors. We'll sit here for a few minutes and just see if we can experience this back and forth, front to back, forward, backward. I can't really get my bell to work, so I'm gonna have to be the bell. Oh, just sitting here hearing sounds. See what it feels like to hear me be the bell. See if it sounds like a bell. Ding, ding, ding. Weird bell, isn't it? Still a bell, though. It's kind of strange that way. You get used to hearing a certain sound, and anything that's not that, can be problematic. So we're going to take 5 minutes here so we can come back at about a quarter to or so. No, maybe about 52. So I'm going to ask you a favor. I kind of like to talk about mindfulness. This whole year has been so difficult in sanghas, and I've just become, um, I don't know, it just feels like we need to remember why we do this practice. But I'd also like to know what's alive for you, what's up for you, what's really uh what is the maybe something that you're not trusting in the practice or something that's you just want to talk about in Dhamma. And so I was hoping maybe two or three people could come back during the break. And when we come back from the break and maybe share something, and I can kind of weave that in with the importance of mindfulness. So we'll come back at 10 to the hour and we'll have a little bit of a talk before we go home. Hey, good. We can come back now. See if there's anybody that has anything that they'd like to have me talk about, and then I will um, open that up and then share a little bit about mindfulness itself. Nobody? Yeah, go ahead. Samira and then Keith.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Samira. Um, there's so many things I want to talk about, but
Mhm.
one thing that has been coming up a lot is, especially within my practice, is trying to infuse concentration with the mindfulness. Um,
Ah,
I have a really, really difficult time sitting and remaining connected to the sensations without getting flooded and overwhelmed.
okay.
Um, I've done some research and I know that, developing a concentration practice can be helpful. It helps bring some balance into one's system. And that's something that's really, really important to me because even this evening, I was getting to a point where like my body was just I was not feeling grounded. And even when I was trying to stay with the sensations, it was just pushing me farther into like this feeling of overwhelm. And it gets
Okay.
to this point where I have to change my position or I have to move or something like that. So um, I'd like to know a little bit more about how we can bring more groundedness, more concentration, and still be able to stay within this practice of developing insight and being with sensation.
Oh, okay, good. That's good. Yeah, we can do that. Keith, how about you?
Uh, I'd say another side of the same coin that Samira was talking about. Samira, sorry, about and this is something that I've worked with before, but always open to ideas about is um, how to balance uh, bringing enough energy to the practice that I can sustain the awareness that uh, you know I basically don't eventually the sort of sloth and torpor doesn't take over and one sort of fades. So basically you just lose awareness. You start to fall asleep. But on the other hand, the practice is about being and being with what is. But if there's not enough energy, there's not awareness. And so how do you balance the bringing enough energy to it, but not trying to force?
Yeah,
Um,
striving.
exactly.
Okay, good. You are too good. That's probably if there's someone else that has something, I'll do it. Otherwise, these two probably that'll be about all the time we have, really. Well, I'm glad you guys asked this, really, because this is the I just did a weekend in Eugene, um, a non-residential, and really is all about mindfulness. And this mindfulness is important for just these two things that you're talking about here. Um, this, even though we're talking about this in the context of practice, these 2 points really are pointing to what's happening in the world right now. Like, how do I steady myself when all around me is falling apart? And really, I'm feeling ungrounded, unstable. Like, what the hell? What's going on here? And at the same time, how do I, you know, like, as lay practitioners, it's hard to steady our mind without the mind thinking it's time to go to sleep. even on retreat, it takes a while to get to this place where you can steady the mind and the mind's actually alert and not falling off into sloth and torpor. Or you're in the effort to try to steady the mind, you're getting too restless because you're putting too much effort into it. This is the quintessential problem. So first of all, what I want to say is these two questions are the practice. They are not getting in the way of your practice. They are the practice. This is what practice is. And this is why I think cultivating mindfulness and staying with each other and being together in practice, we help remind each other of this very fact. And that's why it's so important. So let's look at this concentration aspect and this sense of groundedness. So Buddha he gave a total of 13 practices in the Satipatthana, 13 different ways, even though we basically act like real meditation is just following the breath. But he gave 13 different ways of establishing mindfulness. And all 13 of those ways are equally supportive in directing our capacity to establish mindfulness, all of them. And so I'll just give you really quick, I can run down the list of them. It's not a lot, but he did say mindfulness of breathing. Um, but he gave 6 practices in the body: mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of posture, so 4 postures, mindfulness of awareness of whatever you're doing. So if you're reaching, putting your clothes on, you're peeing, you're defecating, you're whatever you're doing, your yogi job, as you're going about the house, doing all this work, all of that is a mindfulness practice. Um, he did the elements, uh, mindfulness of the elements. He did the death practices of the different ways in which you can practice mindfulness of death. And there's one I think I'm missing, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Um, but let me see what the rest of them are. Then there's mindfulness of feeling tones, mindfulness of mind, and then there are Four Noble Truths. This is the 4th foundation, mindfulness of Dhammas. So it's Four Noble Truths, 5 aggregates, hindrances, 7 factors of awakening, and 6 sense doors. So that's a lot. It's not breath. And if we could begin to see that this practice is way broader than the way we limit it in our minds, it's part and parcel of why we get lost and feel like we can't do it, because we keep trying to hold it to one thing. And that's the thing it should be. But it is way vaster than that. So, Samira, I would say the elements is the way you should practice because of all the overwhelm and the sensations that are overwhelming. You have to find a way to practice with sensations that take them out of your mental thoughts of overwhelm, anxiety. This is difficult. The mind has a habit way of declaring certain thoughts. So I would have a lot of anxiety. And as long as I called that anxiety, my mind would go into a panic and it would think I'm having more and more and more anxiety because this is anxiety. And then I would keep panicking more and more. And I have this hard time practicing. Likewise, my back went out. As soon as I'd start practicing, I'd start feeling all this pain in my back. And then that would accentuate the pain in my back more and more and more pain in the back. But it's why, and I try to use the breath to just focus on the breath so I can kind of like settle all of this. But the breath is not strong enough to combat anxiety. The anxiety is way stronger than any kind of breath. I couldn't even get to the breath. We couldn't find that. So this teacher taught me, his name was Venerable Panadipa. I don't know if you know Venerable Panawati, but she had a co-abbot with her. His name was Panadipa. And Panadipa, this African American monk. So he taught me to begin to watch these elements instead. So there's the practice of mindfulness is learning how to establish a sense of steady alertness, mindful, both internally and externally in both, right? And the rising and passing, and both rising and passing. So you're trying to sort of begin to establish this understanding, this seeing. And the elements, perfect for this. Because when we go outside and we look around, the earth has some qualities about it that we actually have in ourselves. The earth has a steadiness to it. It has a very solid stillness to it. Trees, you can just look at trees and they have a solid stillness to them. They have a silence. There's a groundedness to them. And by the very nature of looking at earth and perceiving earth, we can begin to also perceive the earthiness of this body, that it also has a groundedness to it. It has a weightedness to it. Even if we're not super heavy, we still have a weightedness because we have gravity, and gravity pulls us down, and we can feel that weightedness by just feeling the back of the arms, the underside of the legs. We could feel the hardness of bone. We could feel the hardness, even through our soft tissue. We can feel hardness, and we can feel weight, and we can feel this kind of rough, smooth. We can feel the qualities of earth, even in this body. We can look at earth, we can feel earth, internally, externally. And what we use is not trying to be still. We learn to feel the external properties of earth internally. And we begin to sense that they are one and the same. And what helped me with my anxiety was wind, air, wind oscillates, moves. It is everywhere. And wind is this kind of tingling in the body. It is pressure in the body, because air is what keeps us standing upright. It pushes up against us. Both internal air and external air is actually pushing up against us, even though we don't see that. There is this air. Everything has air and movement of molecules all around. And so this sense of, and he convinced me this way of learning to feel into the earth in me and let go of this idea that there's a body that's having anxiety, but there is earth and wind, and the wind moves, and it does move, and sometimes it's big moving, but it's still wind. And you could begin to see it and feel it outside. That wind, when it's windy outside, we don't get mad at the wind. We don't get frustrated with the wind. We just move with it. We allow it to be. And If you get frustrated with your anxiety, what I was doing was creating more anxiety because I'm pushing against something that is. But if I would allow this to just be wind, I could gradually, the mind has less resistance to that anxiety. So I stopped calling it anxiety, started calling it wind. Wind, wind, wind. And I learned how to find the earth, the way the trees tuck down with their roots into the ground when it gets really, really windy. They're bendable, they're flexible, but they're down in the earth and steady. And so that steadiness is not coming from you trying to find the breath. That is just going to stir up more wind. We want less wind. We want ground. And so you're looking for the felt sense of ground and earth and stability. So noticing that you're sitting here, even though it's windy on the inside, you're actually sitting and you're not moving. And you may feel like you want to move. And even if you move, it's sort of like a rock moving. It's not like you're falling apart. It's just that the rock is moving. And so you can have a rock that moves. You can have a tree that bends in the wind. It's okay. You're still sitting still. And you move your leg, you move a little bit of the body. Just move it slow and intentional, not this kind of forced reactivity to the wind, but this kind of bending with the wind and allowing. And then there's water. Sometimes our reactivity comes from this emotional energy. We let it be water that just flows, and water flows, and emotions flow. They flow through us. We can feel that rhythm of that flowing through us. And sometimes we get hit with a big wave, but still, the wave is not the ocean. It's just an aspect. And we are water. And we can flow. Same way with fire. Sometimes fire, it's intense. Sometimes it's very cool. Anyway, the point I'm saying is we learn to see the elements externally, and you learn to feel the elements internally. And you begin to allow your trust in the knowing of the elements, you get less caught up in what's actually happening. And this is for the establishment of mindfulness. So once I was able to establish mindfulness, just by getting interested in what were all these experiences, what element could I give claim to? What element could I feel into it? Then my ability to just steady my attention with it became stronger and stronger and stronger. If you try to force your attention to stay with the breath when the mind is agitated, it cannot do that. If you try to force the agitation to go away when it's present, it cannot do that. So instead, we're trying to find, how can I allow an experience to be and know it as it truly is? It's just a present moment. And here's how I begin to learn. I begin to understand what um, Venerable Deepa was saying. Because if I got up from the meditation, anxiety gone. I'm all easy, cool, happy to be done. Woo, glad that bell came. That was the end of it. So if the anxiety was really something real in the moment, something to be dealt with, it would still be there when the meditation was over, but it wouldn't. As soon as I stopped meditating, anxiety gone. And that's how I learned this is a habit. This is something that the mind is generating because this I'm meditating and it generates this. And as long as I keep feeding it, it'll keep doing that. But when I learn to use the elements and steady myself against the backdrop of this, it got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So think about using the elements as a way, or think about using just what you're doing. Like practice when you're feeling and you have this sense of moving, then get up and start moving. But pay attention to the fact that you're moving the way you would when you go on a retreat and you're doing your yogi job and you're paying attention to the body moving. It's fine. You're just paying attention to the body moving, but you got to call that your meditation practice. So when you're in anxiety and you're getting up and you're moving, then that is getting up from meditation. When I have anxiety, meditation. This is what this process is. So then everything you do is not a reaction, but more of a meditative practice. This is your meditative practice. And gradually, your mind will learn this is what meditation is. And it will gradually relax on its own. But you have to give it permission to do it on its own. And the only thing you do is sort of like when you have babies and they're learning how to walk. You don't need to teach them how to walk, they can figure it out. But you do have to kind of make the house a little safe. You have to put some little cushions around the edges of the corners. You have to put some little barriers around so they don't go wandering downstairs before they're ready. All of that sort of containment we do is just to keep them safe as they figure out how to walk. And that's what you're doing with the mind. It wants to be quiet and concentrated. That's why when we get still on retreats, we're so happy. The mind wants to be there. It doesn't know how to do it because it's so used to um, having to constantly react to things. So you're just giving it the space by coming up with something that'll help you not freak out about it, and then it will learn how to settle down on its own. And then the last piece is walking meditation is so important. So if you can't sit, use your meditation period for walking and do the walking back and forth so that you can help train the mind to drop its thinking. It'll just walk back and forth. And when you get to the end, you let go, steady yourself, turn around and do it again. And every time you get to the end and you stop and you let go, you don't care whether you stayed with the walk-in or not, you just let whatever you did go, turn around, set this intention to stay present the whole time. Walk again, never present, didn't do anything right, doesn't matter, drop it, let it go, and do it again. That process of back and forth, dropping and beginning again, dropping and beginning again. It's what you're doing when you sit in meditation. Thoughts come up. You can't make the mind drop it. It has to learn how to drop it. And walking meditation, this back and forth, trains it to drop it, turn around, begin again, drop, begin again, stop, begin again. All right. So that all I'm helping encourage you is to consider that there's way more options besides sitting there trying to stay with the breath and fight against these overwhelming sensations. There's way more in the Satipatthana to begin to practice with than just that. And that capacity, your capacity to be with the sensations will get stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's where the concentration comes from, just from being able to be with the experience without fighting against it. Which goes to what Keith is asking, this kind of bringing enough energy to practice. This is the same thing. The point is to what we call energy is really interest. And if you have interest, you will have energy. It's like there was a time we probably thought we could never sit through a 3-hour movie, but I sat through The Lord of the Rings, and I've even sat through the version of Lord of the Rings and did not go to sleep not one time because interest is energy. So, what you're saying is, how do I bring enough interest in my practice to keep me present with what's happening? And the way I look at the Satipatthana is the first foundation to me, the body, is really to bring you into the present moment. The second, third, and fourth foundations are what sustains you and keeps you there. So if you bring this attention to, let's say, the breath, let's just use the breath instead of all the other ones. I use this breath, and the breath is my anchor. It's my go-to. I feel comfortable with it. I bring my attention on the breath. And then what happens? After about 10 minutes of loving up on the breath, you are bored to death and you don't have any more interest. And now you start wandering off into thinking, getting blank. The mind does not see any more point to this because you've seen one breath, you've seen them all. So instead, that's why the second foundation of noticing your feeling tones, is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Is it neither? You don't care if the mind wanders off into thinking. You want to know, what was the feeling tone before it wandered off? Was it pleasant? Maybe that's what causes me to wander off. Was it unpleasant? Maybe that's what causes me to wander off. Or maybe I just get bored and it's neutral, and because it's neutral, I don't really have any interest in it anymore. But you want to get interested in the feeling tone that's right before this wandering off. And so sometimes you'll catch it, sometimes you won't, sometimes you'll go back and sense into it. But this kind of watching it, sensing into it, that's what's going to keep you more alive. Or on the other hand, it's thinking, right? So the mind keeps wandering and thinking. Third foundation, that's also a way, that's also the way to keep you in the present moment, because you want to know, is your mind affected by eight mind states, four unwholesome mindful states and four wholesome mindful states? He called them wholesome. So is it affected by lust or wanting? Is it affected by not wanting or aversion? Is it affected by being distracted? Or is it affected in a way that it is um, deluded or in fantasy, confused? And you want to know if it's not affected that way. So, no, there's no wanting here. There's no not wanting. There's no aversion. Oh, there's some distraction here. Or maybe I just have some confusion. Maybe this is uh, like confusion. So you want to not figure out what's going on. You want to feel this felt sense of wanting, not wanting, distraction, and confusion. On the other hand, you also want to notice if the mind is spacious or if the mind is not spacious. If the mind is sort of like, it's called surpassing, but it means it knows there's something more here. It knows there's something more here, just doesn't know what it is. Or is it not in that state? Is it concentrated? Is it not concentrated? And does it feel released? Like, finally, I've let go. I feel released. Or does it feel constricted? You want to see these 8 states and begin to sense them, not think about them, but it is thinking. It does have a quality of thought. And the thought is kind of like, is this the felt sense of concentration or the felt sense of spaciousness? And if it's not spaciousness, what is this quality of mind? So you're interested in the mind, not in the concepts or whatever it's thinking about. What is the felt sense of that thinking? And you're more interested in that. And that can keep you present. And then in the fourth foundation, of course, that's all the dhammas. Can you see the five aggregates? Can you see the Four Noble Truths? Can you see the hindrances or the seven factors? Can you watch this triangle between the sense door, the object, and the contact that happens? What happens when you hear sounds? It's not just random. Things actually start happening. And so you want to know, what is all of this? So do you see how the first foundation, you follow your breath and you get yourself to the present moment? Once you get there, now there's like this whole world of phenomena that's arising and passing that will keep you interested. And that interest is where your energy lies. And you don't care if you get lost in thought. That's going to happen. You're not doing it anyway. But you don't even care if you're sleepy or not sleepy. You care if you know you're sleepy. What does that do to your practice? And when you're not sleepy, what does that do to your practice? And what's the mind like when it's sleepy? Is it is that what confusion and fantasy is? Or is that constricted, distracted? You can begin to sense into all of these various ways, and that interest will begin to strengthen your awareness. I mean, I have ADD, and if someone had told me that somebody with an ADD mind could stay focused on anything for any amount, could stay focused on the breath, are you kidding? And I could stay focused on the breath because I trained my mind how to stay focused on thoughts. And I started training my mind how to be aware that I was thinking. Because for ADD minds, we don't even know we're thinking. We're just thinking, 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 thinking. We don't know. So I began to train my mind to notice that I was thinking. And when I trained my mind to notice that I was thinking, the more I trained in that way using the third foundation, the stronger my awareness got. And the stronger my awareness got, the more I could focus the same attention on something subtle as long as it was moving. So I learned I could stay with the breath as long as I could feel the movement of it. You see? So this process of the Satipatthana is really designed to help us see through a lot. Oh, I know we don't have very much time left here, but I'll just see if there's anybody that had anything else that they wanted to ask about this, because I do want you to be encouraged to practice. Um, I'll see if I have, I'll see if I can pull up the Satipatthana while you see if there's any hands or questions or anything. And if I can pull this up, I will put it in the chat. Anybody have any questions? Nope. Cannot find it.
I don't have any questions, but thank you for that explanation. It was very helpful.
Here's the list. Here's the list. You're welcome. Um,
And Tuere, it looks like Naomi has a question.
Go ahead, Naomi. Thank you. I'm trying to pull up our thing. Go ahead, Naomi.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
Good to see you too. Oh, yes, it's good to see you.
I went to a demo on Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to figure out how to stay present in those kinds of situations. And am I present in those types of situations?
All right.
And it was really interesting feeling my body while I was there. And I think I bring this up now because I think I'm probably gonna be back on the streets again.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm trying to use it as a practice. And I'm, I'm curious about how to do that. I mean, I have a mantra that says everything I do is my practice. So can one be totally present in the Dharma when surrounded with that kind of energy?
You can. And the way that you stay present, the thing about staying present has more to do with your judgment about what's happening. So if you have any judgments, or if you have any kind of comparing mind, or if you have any kind of wanting to fix a problem, you can't stay present because the mind is operating in its analytical form. It's not paying attention. It is like prejudging everything that's happening. But I've been in protest where I practiced mindfulness. And I just listen to the sounds, the smells, the experience, even the energy. And you'll notice some energy is different than other energy. I mean, you can be by some people and their energy is electric. And then you can be by other people and they're like there, but they're barely energetically present. So you can, if you could get interested in the I guess what I'm trying to point to is you're less interested in trying to prove a point and more interested in the fact that you are there and you are here, and this is this moment in time, and this life right here. And that is way more important than any point you're trying to prove. Do you see the difference? That aliveness, that interest, that awareness is going to come from your interest in being present, period. With whatever's happening. And you're actually not all relaxed and chilled, and like if you're sitting on a cushion, you're actually going to become way more alert because that interest is going to get peaked at the interest level of whatever's around you. Focus your
Thank you.
on that.
Thank you.
And that's what I forgot to that's the one I forgot. I can't believe that. But anyway, I sent you a copy of the 13 practices that you can do with the Satipatthana. And with that said, a couple of things I want to tell you before we go. One, I have finally gotten BCBS to allow me to do a class on 9 bodies and the elements. which I'm going to do. That's my practice. That's a practice I've been using for many years now. And so if you're interested, it's at the Berry Center for Buddhist Studies. It's going to be online. It's a year-long class. Alex Haley and I are going to do it together. And I'd love to have you come, and I can help. We're gonna look at the Satipatthana in full-on look. But even if that's not, that starts in August. But there's some other class I'm doing also, starting in January with John Mason. We are going to do the Satipatthana. We are going to do the whole Satipatthana and um, really get into the Satipatthana for 5 months and then have a retreat at the end of that time, to kind of like really begin to see what the Satipatthana is. And it is way more than following the breath. And so it's actually the direct path to liberation. And so we want to unfold it that way. So those are just two things you can look out for. You can go to my website to see about them. But those are just two things. I hope I see you there at one of them. This seemed like it was so quick, and I hope I actually was a benefit to you and helped you begin to see something about practice. Um, I want to leave you with one last thing. I know we're in really, really difficult times. I know it, and I feel it just like you do. But I want you to know that times are always difficult for some group of people. There's never a time when it's not difficult. We as human beings are pretty crude to each other because of greed, hatred, and delusion. So there's always going to be a time where you have to be connected to your practice. And the more you're able to learn to practice in the midst of difficult times, and the more you keep your connection to a sangha that helps you stay in the practice because you keep talking about practice, then that is going to help you in the long run, strengthen your ability to be with anything. So I just want to encourage you. You have a good sangha. It's been around a long time, and it'll stay around much longer if you stay together. All righty. I see that Keith put a whole bunch of little things in here in the.
Yeah, if I could just say
Yes,
quickly,
go ahead.
it in the chat, you'll see a couple events coming up on the 21st. There's a Gathering of the Sanghas picnic. Information is in the chat, in the email, on our website. And then on the 28th, there's a half day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Again, information that Howie's leading, that information in the chat. And then just wanted to remind everybody of the practice of dana. And Tuere has come and given these teachings freely from her heart. And that part of what that then enables us to do is to look and say, well, what generosity, what feelings can are arising in me in response to that, and how can I then translate it as a contribution back to help these teachings continue for others in the future, to help the teachers continue to teach. And that's sort of this practice of dana. And so I put in the chat a couple of ways you can do this with monetarily, which is very helpful. There are also other ways to volunteer with the Sangha if you're interested, and feel free to reach out about that as well. So
Great.
thank you so much, Tuere, for
Thank
coming and
you. I
talking.
appreciate you. I appreciate you guys. And it was good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Tuare.
you.
Lovely talk. Very
Yes, thank
important.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.